Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200 from Acceleration Car Racing's website?
That's because AKR gives you free shipping on orders of $200 or more within the continental US.
Okay, but I thought you were just getting a pair of gloves. That's what, 70 bucks?
But if I'm getting a new pair of gloves, I might as well get a new pair of shoes to match. And then on top of that, I'll get a neck brace because with the shipping, it's basically free.
Yeah, I do not think the math checks out on that.
Everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free for orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Spend responsibly. Shop AKR.com.
Okay, Simon, I'm going to do another tap, and we're going to, actually I'm going to walk over and double check all the routing. Still really quiet to you, Simon? How about now?
everyone, and welcome back to SpeedSports Racing Park here in Houston, Texas. Qualifying underway for the first round of the 2025 SuperKarts USA Pro Tour. My name's Xander Clemens, alongside me, Rob Howden. We are now just into our second division, trying to set grids for qualifying. Just wrapped up KA Junior, and you can see on the side-by-side down at the bottom right corner of your screen that the Pro Shifter boys and girls are getting ready to go as well. This place is packed out. 317 entries was the count off your guys' preview, Rob. This is massive this weekend. It is going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Obviously hitting the caps on a number of the categories, which is exciting. As Xander, you mentioned, we've already got a qualifying session done in the books already. KA100 JR wrapping up their qualifying run. Tristan Murphy was the quickest driver. Nathan Dupuis second. Nicholas Orbezo third. Luca Popescu fourth. And Alexander Vanchev rounding out the top five. But Xander, as you can see from the shots here, there is some residual water on the outsides of the racetrack. It is dry right now. There is a potential for a chance for rain midway through the day, but after some rain, of course, on Wednesday and Thursday, a little bit yesterday at the end of the day. Actually got hit really hard at the very end of the day. It looks like we may end up with a mostly dry day here on Saturday.
Let's talk about the micros that are just getting started with their second group, now fast group, and issues already for one of the superstars from Florida, Lennox Lockhart, going around on screen. Taking you for a lap following one of the Bennecks across the line. That is the 221 of Zev Godshot, currently third. Brody Stoffel hot off a great weekend last week in the first of the 2-week stint of majors here at SpeedSports Racing Park at the Rock Cup Florida Winter Tour's Detour to Texas. And the black and orange machine has about a half-tenth over Marcelo Flores' JHDD Kart Republic. Good stuff to start the day for the both of them on a racetrack that is probably going to pick up a lot of speed after all the overnight rain we had.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Again, as I said, we got hit really hard yesterday afternoon with some really teeming rain. Drivers still were on track in that final session of the day to get some wet tire running. But again, this is the start of the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour, 16th season of this Pro Tour. It started back in 2010 with that first race at Sonoma Raceway. Again, back in the early days, there was 2 races, Spring Nats and Summer Nats, and the Pro Tour capping things off at the Super Nationals. That's changed, of course, since the introduction of the Winter Nationals. And again, that's what we've got going on here. The first time a Pro Tour, Xander, has made a trek here to SpeedSports Racing Park, and they have turned out in droves, as you said. This place is jam-packed, and that was always one of the considerations, one of the questions, right? Could Alan Rudolph's facility fit all the people that would come for a Pro Tour race? The answer is obviously a resounding yes. It is packed to the absolute rafters here. Parking for actual cars is the biggest issue right now. If you see some of the aerial shots from the drone, they are actually parking cars on the rental car track as well. So indeed, this place is packed and everybody's excited to go racing.
Let's take a look at the results here from your Micro Swifts qualifying session. Dutch Westbrook for Team Bennick on top at the end of it all. Aiden Go back to second. Hudson Howard with a late lap to go to third. Zev Godshot fourth. Brody Stoffel fifth. And again, Pro Shifter qualifying on deck. But folks, as Rob mentioned, well, this place absolutely packed. You couldn't fit another entry, another trailer, another car here if you tried. But, well, we're probably going to try as this weekend continues onwards here.
It's broken up into 2 stages, and in stage 1, the field is split into 2 groups. The top 6 fastest drivers from each group will advance to stage 2, the SKUSA Super Pole. These 12 drivers will have only 2 laps to set the fastest time to sort themselves in the top 12 starting position. Let's find out who's the fastest driver in the world.
Well, that's the short form explanation of what we've got on deck here for you. It's a little more complex than that, but as mentioned, 2 groups split odds and evens after happy hour practice yesterday, so it didn't matter if you had a good final practice or a bad one. You're ranked against the drivers you're on track with. Top 6 from each group will advance to stage 2, Super Pole. Beyond that, the change from this year compared to last year in terms of setting our grid, 7th on back. Those below the cut line, well, they will be blended based on lap time. Last year, If you were 7th in your group and your group was the odd-numbered group, that meant you were 13th. If you were even-numbered group, that would have put you 14th. This year, it's an even blend. So you might be 7th or 8th in your group, but if the next group goes a little better and you miss the cut, well, it could definitely put you further back down the grid. We can see already here for group number 1, they're headed out onto the racetrack. Let's take a look at who is in this group here. AJ Myers in the number 3, Adrian Renedin, big name for Velocity Racing Soda USA, Kyle Wick, Michael Avancino, and over 20 karts will be hitting the racetrack here for this typical 5-minute time session, Rob.
Yeah, a couple more GFC drivers, Jacob Gulick and Hunter Pickett. Of course, Philip Dimkevich as well, Josh Honker, the Canadian, and indeed a number of other drivers. Gage Corbin being one. It'll be interesting to see what Gage does. Just 14 years of age. His pro shifter debut here this weekend. And we'll see what Gage has running with that Maranello camp. But again, AJ Myers, the first driver out on the racetrack. He was very quick, of course, through all of the practice day yesterday. And again, those of you tuning in, again, Xander will do the 2 groups, and then we won't go right into Super Pole. We'll have the master shifter drivers come out, knock out their qualifying section. Then we'll come back with Super Pole, and as you said, just the 2 laps. Green, white checker. You got to go out and get the job done to see if you're starting on the pole for the first of the 2 heat races.
First lap coming across the line. Michael Avancino looks like he's pushing a little bit. AJ Myers, Adrian Renedin, less so. CJ Bowman as well. And that's pretty typical, Rob. We've watched enough of these guys and girls get after it that usually the best of them will take an extra break-in lap or 2 even to bring the tires gradually up to temperature, and they're only going to give themselves really 1 shot at the pole. So we can see Michael Avancino's Ron White Racing CRG closing in on Renedin and AJ. But AJ still seems like he's warming it up. I bet you Renedin may go here, but for sure if he doesn't, Michael's wanting to pass the pair of them.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? They're kind of playing some games here right now. You see Myers dialing things in. Renedin has not made that move yet in the Sodi kart to dive his way through. He'll tuck to the inside now, finally, coming into the final couple of corners of the track, 13, 14, and 15. And they'll lead back out onto the front straight. Renedin says, I'm ready to go. Avancino as well. He's trying to find a way by. AJ Myers, though, playing it close to the vest here now, has not yet pulled the trigger on it. Truly Adams goes on top. Micah Hendricks, look at the ticker to the left side of the screen. Xander, just keep seeing new drivers to the front. Arizona's Micah Hendricks on the Croc promotion now. P1 with the 52.292.
Now, again, keep in mind, top 6 transfer, so that's where that cut line is in this case. Renedin, it seemed like it was kind of sneaky for him to go by AJ in the last turn, and I think that's why AJ is going on another warm-up lap here, and he's realized he needs clear racetrack, so he just bailed out of the way in front of the GFCs of Kyle Wick and Jacob Gulick. But that was tactical. I think Renedin could have pulled the pin in the infield hairpin. He waited till the last turn so AJ couldn't get a good launch to start his money lap this time. I bet you Renedin's lap's going to look really good. Let's see if he goes to the top. Oh, yeah. 51-21 for Adrian Renedin. Kyle Wick to second. Avancino is going to get bumped to 4th as Charlie Steins gets onto our screen and gets into the top 6 now in the 84. He made his first appearance in Super Pole in the first iteration of it last year. It was huge for that small 2-car team out of Indiana, the Factory Fury GP Kart boys.
Good lap there for Andrew Byrne as well on the Catalyst Driver Development ITAL car. He goes P2 behind Renedin, just 45 thousandths of a second back. Kyle Wick over a 10th back. Same with Charlie Steins. Avancino, the top driver from the West Coast in the 24 for Ron White Racing on the CRG, now 5th. And Mario Gill rounding out the 6 drivers. That's the cut line right now. Still lots of time to come. We're waiting for AJ Myers to get that open track he talked about to drop that big lap. A number of drivers to come here. There's Jacob Gulick in that national number 2 machine, the GFC. Let's see what he's got, because he's just worked his way in there. He actually was 5th, but he'll go down to 6th. Hunter Pickett now up to P5.
Hunter Pickett now pushes out Andrew Byrne. And Jacob Gulick's going to get bumped out as Charlie Steins goes better. Still, AJ Myers on that first push lap, not enough to get in. He was still a second off. That was 10th that time by. Let's see if the number 3 has anything left. This may be the last lap. If not, they'll get one more. That's one thing that's going to be a little bit different here at SpeedSports Racing Park. It is going to be the shortest of the 3 circuits on the Pro Tour this year. Newcastle and Cincinnati both are pushing a minute or more. Here, we're going to be one of the tracks fully dry into the 42nd bracket. So here's the number 3 plate. Last year's near champ in that title fight with Morgado as Avancino goes to the top. Can AJ answer to the line? He will get in and instantly go to the bubble with 10 seconds to go.
Yeah, no doubt. He put a good lap down, but everybody else did as well. Michael Avancino goes P1. 50.2. Look at Myers, a half a second back. Those Evenko's starting to come up to temperature now. It's Avancino, Reneden, Steins, Josh Conker, Cowick, and A.J. Myers on the bubble. His teammate Bowman, TJ Bowman, right there in the 28 Mario. Gill back as well by about a 10th. A lot of drivers looking for that little bit more, Xander, to try to transfer into Super Pole.
This would be big. The driver who led them out onto the racetrack, who was top 3 most of the sessions yesterday, and the number 3 plate right now on the bubble, nearly could get pushed out by his teammate. Avancino looks safely at Jacob Gulick, well outside the cut zone right now. He needs a big lap as Reneden goes to the top here in this first stage. Myers in, Conker in, Gulick is out, and so will be CJ Bowman. Mario Gill, Kyle Wick going to get in by the skin of his teeth. P6 there for the number 4 if it holds.
Yeah, still drivers coming. I know that Wick looks good there, but a little under a 10th better than Bowman. I think he's going to just get in. Kyle Wick makes it to Super Pole qualifying by the skin of his teeth, less than a 10th of a second. Reneden goes P1. Avancino second. Charlie Steins.
Big lap there for Charlie Steins. How about that?
Wow.
And again, Josh Conker taking that Marinello group. You know, that they have looked at themselves very much so as the underdogs coming into last year and this year, similar to those GP Kart boys. I am very happy to see them get a guy in.
Yeah, and I talked to Josh Conker and his dad, Dave, yesterday. He and I raced together when we were younger, and they said they were still searching. That was midway through the day. They didn't have a handle on it yet, so to be able to come out here and what, as you can see, is interesting conditions. That rubber's going to keep going down as, again, from yesterday's rain, it washed a ton off. So this track's going to be evolving throughout the day, and maybe we'll see what happens as our next group rolls out. But yeah, Reneden, Avancino, Steins, Conker, Myers, and Wick, the 6 drivers, Xander, transferring through the Super Pole qualifying.
Well, you can see the drivers here for group number 2 on your screen. Let's pull that grid up for you just so you can get an idea. Danny Formal, Mateus Morgado, 2 of the quickest from yesterday. Talon Yockel in this group, as well as Jay Irwin, Billy Musgrave, Ian Quinn. Very impressive. Top 10 at the end of happy hour. He could be someone to watch here to go through.
Yeah, Gavin Bailiff, Aiden Rudolph as well. We know Rudolph's got lots of laps around this place here. Gavin Bailiff was very strong in the SuperKarts USA Winter Series. He helped the rail one out here. Ian Quinn as well. So Justin White, who had a victory as well in the Winter Series, with lots of big talent in this one here. But only 6 go through for the 12 in Super Pole qualifying.
Quarantine Russo for the Catalyst Driver Development Italkart camp. The 92, he's kind of 3rd in line on your screen as we follow last year's champ. And the big guy here now with Danny Formal through the S's. Russo also in the top 10 yesterday and having to kind of pick up the reins and become that team leader they would like him to be, with Remo Ruscetti moving over to the Pro X30 division to try and work on their single-speed package. He says our shifter's good enough. They obviously signed Talon Yockel over the offseason. The number 5 plate headed to the boys in gray, white, and red. But Quarantine Russo led them at the end of final practice.
Danny Formal, we know, has big speed. Obviously some great success here in Q1 of 2025 in the sports car adventures. And great to have him back here with GFC, a fantastic program. We'll also put that GFC chassis, the brand, into Costa Rica with the family program there. So get to see Danny back with us here in the 37. Very strong yesterday, as we had said. This is the track where a guy like Danny can attack. He loves it to be able to attack corners, and there's a technical parts of this racetrack. There are some long straights, as we know. Here's the one down the straightaway, out of 4-5 down to turn number 6. Billy Musgrave right there with an early turn in there on the corner. You can see the different approaches to the turn 6 right-hander at the end of the straightaway. Musgrave on the factory cart right up there on Formal. Rudolph on top right now with a 51.947. Gavin Bailiff second, Morgado third. Henkel now runs in fourth. Formal and Rousseau rounding up the 6 drivers to transfer. Jay Irwin currently on the outside looking in, as is Billy Musgrave and Ivana Richards. She's been here many times at this racetrack. Great to see her up in the Pro Shifter category.
Justin White, top 10 yesterday. Let's see what Irwin can answer to. How about P2 for the Kiwi kid? The number 6 plate had a fantastic season last year, podiumed at the opening round, parlayed that into a win at the Stars Series about a month later, got his first U.S. Major win against A.J. Myers. This year, that series is also going to have Morgado, but Jay Irwin, I think, probably one of the more underrated drivers in the pit, slowly getting the respect he has undoubtedly earned. And Justin White, you can put him in that category after we witnessed him put on a great show at the Winter Series.
Yeah, I think we all forget how young Jay Irwin was when we first started running shifter, right? He jumped in at 14 as well. So, again, he's just continuing to get better and better, going to develop those skills as he grows up a little bit, gets a little older. He's ready to fight for a championship here this year, no doubt about it. Beryl Art goes P1 and P2 with Morgado and Irwin. Put the factory cart of Billy Musgrave now up into second, make it Bailiff, another Beryl Art. The TKG Beryl Art USA driver goes to P1 with a 50.041. Xander, just over a minute to go. Formal on the cut line.
That could be big. Danny Formal right now ahead of Musgrave and Morgado. They are all going to hit traffic, and you can see Formal really struggled right there. That nose just plowed completely forward in the center of turn number 8. Musgrave is going to go in. He'll sit on that lap. He's still only about 2/10 to the good. Danny needs to find a little more because Aiden Rudolph is only a 0.5 back and creeping up on that bubble spot.
Rudolph, as we know, jumping into the pro shifter category, getting a feel for what it's like to run with the big dogs of American karting. Formal needs more out of 13 of 14 through 15. Can he get a little more to move himself up, a little breathing room? He does not go quicker. Rousseau jumps up and Formal gets pushed out.
Fastest man through the entire week, Danny Formal. First man out as Jay Irwin and Justin White trade 5th and 6th.
Wow.
Morgado is on a cool down lap. Quarantine Russo on a push lap, just went by him there. So the Beryl Arts right now have 2 guys in. Catalyst has a driver in. Gavin Bailiff, what a burner that was there for the 64. And the big guy on his last chance right now, Rob.
He's throwing it around hard. You can see him really drifting it through that corner. Again, 3 Beryl Arts with the TKG in there as well. So 3 Beryl Arts right now in the 6th to transferred. It's White on the bubble in the Maranello. One more shot here for Formal. Again, quickest yesterday for a majority of the day and the end. Does he get anything at the end? He does not. Wow. Oh, goodness. 7th for Formal. Gavin Bailiff, 49.966. Still super pole to come. But check that out. Formal out. Rudolph, Yockel, all out.
That is huge. Danny Formal out. Jacob Gulick misses out. GFC only ends up with Kyle Wick as their lone man that will transfer. And that has got to be the biggest story out of all of the drivers in Pro Shifter, that the number 37 will not go through to fight for pole. At best, he will be starting 13th for both heat races later this afternoon.
Yeah, talk about a big storyline out of the gate here in qualifying. There's Formal there. And he, a little nod of the head. He is not a happy camper there in the 37, expecting a lot more with the pace that he showed on Friday. Bailiff, Morgado, Rousseau, Musgrave, Irwin, and White. The top 6 drivers, they will transfer through. Work to be done for Formal throughout the day here today and into tomorrow if he's going to fight to stand on top of the podium on Sunday.
So as he pushes into the scale line, a quick run through on the recap as well again of the other drivers outside. Talon Yockel close but no cigar. And Maranello USA is going to end up with 2 of their drivers into Super Pole. Josh Conker, who was their late addition at the end of last season. Justin White, who flew the red and yellow colors in Orlando. And that guy will not be joining them in the top 12 Super Pole Quali. It's a 2-lap run. They'll be inverted as well this year, so 12th will go out first. First overall in the transfer will start last on the grid, which will be fun to watch for us. But let's take a listen in here as we're back down on the scale area, and Group 2 rolls on. Group 1 just starting to get over to the pre-staging positions while Master Shifter's getting ready to roll out. Well, I apologize again a little bit about the audio quality there, but you could make out a couple things, Rob, and that was one saying Danny saying all we did was put new tires, and I didn't make it. It was undrivable. And it didn't look fun to drive there in that back airplane.
Well, remember, there was at one point we had the great shot there coming in the straightaway. You watch the two different entries into turn number 6, the end of the back straightaway, that of Formal and that of Billy Musgrave. They were obviously attacking a little differently. Formal probably just trying to do something to change up what was going on. A much earlier turn into the corner than Billy Musgrave had there, and again, they were really almost flat sliding through a couple of the corners as well. So again, they'll go back to the drawing board for sure on that, have a look at the data, and come up with another hot rod. Danny's got work to do, let's put it that way. It's going to be fun to see what happens in the heat races.
Yeah, this will be a treat to get to watch him roll forward. Master Shifter again on deck. Pro Shifter still has to roll through the scale line, and then Caleb will be able to sneak his way in to start talking to him. So let's take a quick break here from our partners. When we return, you'll hear from the aftermath of round 1 of Pro Shifter qualifying, and we'll get set for Super Pole.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200 from Acceleration Kart Racing's website?
That's because AKR gives you free shipping on orders of $200 or more within the continental U.S.
Okay, but I thought you were just getting a pair of gloves. That's what, 70 bucks?
But if I'm getting a new pair of gloves, I might as well get a new pair of shoes to match. And then on top of that, I'll get a neck brace because with the shipping, it's basically free.
Yeah, I do not think the math checks out on that.
Everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free for orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Spend responsibly. Shop AKR.com.
Well, first of all, I'm really grateful to be here with GFC. Me and Gary have been trying to put this together for a while now, and just never got to it. And to start the season, the Pro Tour with him, very excited. Very great team behind me. Awesome teammates. You know, yesterday was my first time on the go-kart, and felt quite comfortable for my driving style. Everything fit well. The engine package, the IME Sweet Tech was very easy to drive. And yeah, I'm super excited. Not 100% sure if I'll be able to do the whole Pro Tour Championship, but the best we could do is come out here and try to get the best result possible for GFC. And yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's the first time in a long time I've been on weight at Orlando. Beginning of the season, I was 6 pounds over, and obviously the results were quite okay. And this weekend I'm right on 388 to 392 on the scale, so right on weight. So super excited. It's been a long time since I've been 167 pounds, so I think that'll be very beneficial and very helpful through the weekend. So yeah, super excited to see what we could do.
We'll talk about a change in emotion there, Rob. From where we were with Media Day for Danny on Thursday, he was so quick, and then to have the heartbreak right there out of Qualy, as we've also got some issues here in Master Shifter. That is going to be the 677 Sodi of Daniel Paras for Velocity Racing. Stalled out trying to refire his Sweet Techs, unable to do so, and this is going to be over at about turn number 2 into 3. And while we're looking at it, check out the marbling too offline.
I was just going to pick that up. Look at that, all the stuff that's already been ripped up there coming through. See if Paras can get this number 677 refired, trying to get it going, just can't do it right now. And he's on the outside. You see the yellow flag flying. They're going to want him off this racetrack soon as we're early into the Master Shifter qualifying run. Scotty Hargrove, driver you've seen many times before, of course, in, we got it going, we do. Well done. Daniel Paras getting that 677 refired. But yeah, Scott Hargrove is a driver we've seen in the Pro Shifter category the last number of years. Of course, a very successful racing career as well, running through the open wheel ranks, USF 2000, Pro 2000. That was an Indy Lights driver for a time as well. But of course, he and his business partner, Remo Rossetti, for the Catalyst Driver Development Program, and really been kind of the focus here. But he's turned 30 years of age, so he's got master's age right now, right? So Scott's out there in the Catalyst ITAL kart. The focus, he told me yesterday, is to get back to Pro Shifter right now. He's just a bit out of shifter kart shape, so come here, run some Masters races, get a chance to not get overrun by some of the drivers in the Pro Shifter category, and hopefully we'll see him back in Pro Shifter at the Supernats in November.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear that we've got another driver who was at one point starbound for the NTT IndyCar Series, and of course one of the best drivers the Pacific Northwest has produced. You heard from Danny what it's like as a full-grown adult, the struggles if you're over 6 feet to make sure that you can get down to competitive weight, I think is the right term too, because Danny's obviously, he's just naturally a bigger guy. He's very, very well in shape, but his case is just trying to get down to not exceeding the minimum weight by a massive amount. For most drivers, you want to run with about 10 to 15 pounds of lead to play with it, and I'm sure from Scott's case, that's where he'd love to end up by the time we get to November. Not just get to minimum, but get below.
Exactly, so you can move some ballast around, right? But he's like 20 pounds over right now, he said. He goes, I'm back in the gym. I got work to do to get back to where I need to be. But indeed, again, you want to have that amount of weight ballast you can move around. Get it on the seat somewhere. If you need it up front, you can get it up front. Whatever you need to do, that's the key to be able to be that much below, so you can kind of move some of that weight around. With Danny Formalis, it's always been that way. He's a big guy, as you said, always strong, and he's had to kind of work that to change the muscularity of his body and not be so big up top. To get down to 167, man, like I said, he hasn't been that weight for a long time, but he is ready to go. And issues, of course, as we said, not making it into Super Bowl, but I'm sure he'll put a show on this afternoon we go heat racing. Hargrove is P1 right now with a 51.015. Scott Presti runs in second, Larry Pegram in third, Victor Jimenez in fourth, and right now it's Luis Gauthier rounding out the top five. He'll move up to fourth. Pierce Baldus back in sixth spot. Skitchy Barnes, your defending champion, currently seventh. Jeff Mills in eighth. Justin Kelly jumping up the order. Mills moves up into sixth on the Ron White Racing CRG. So checker flag flying to end this one here. Skitchy Barnes quite a ways back. P8 for Barnes, well back. But Scott Presti, who ran Xander with the Pro Shifter guys in the Winter Series program, he's P1.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
And this is also the official debut for Presti Racing for him becoming a Croc promotion dealer out of Florida. He's got Vincenzo Saraceno with him. It's a small start for the pair, but Vincenzo had a respectable opening quali effort, and for Scott, well, this is as respectable as you can get.
I think so.
Top of the board by a good margin.
Yeah, Scotty Hargrove coming in second spot there, 3/10 back. Larry Pegram up into third on the TKG Hero Art USA entry. Luis Gauthier in fourth, Jimenez fifth, Mills sixth, Bolt is seventh, Barnes all the way back in eighth. Cameron Townsend's in ninth, Justin Kelly, Luca Bartone, Daniel Paras rounding up the dozen drivers that we have here in the Master Shifter class. And we weren't able to get a time in on Daniel Paras. He was able to refire, but potentially just brought it back to the scales. So indeed, 3/10 up on it for Scott Presti, 50.700, quality lap time. Well ahead of Hargrove and significantly ahead of Pegram as well and Gauthier. So Presti looks to be the class of the field coming out of the gate right now. Xander with Master Shifter getting done here, getting their qualifying in. We know what's next. We got 12 drivers to see who's going to stand up on top here and get that pole for the heat races for Pro Shifter.
That's right, Rob. It'll be just 2 laps for these 12 drivers. Let's go over again those that have made it in to Super Pole. Gavin Bailiff was the surprise top qualifier in his group for a good portion of the session, and it stuck through to the end. Mateus Morgado, quick in his group as well. Of course, Corentin Russo and Billy Musgrave were able to get in late in the session. They did not look great early on. Adrian Renedin did around midway through his group. And then you've got some drivers where this is a big deal that they've made it their way into Superpole. Justin White, I believe it may be his first Superpole appearance. Josh Conker, I believe the same. Charlie Steins has been here before, and for the second consecutive year, he's here again for the Winter Nats.
Michael Avancino, very impressive. He has swept the mains in the Challenge of the Americas to start the season off as well on the West Coast. So for him to get into Superpole here for Ron White Racing on that CRG is impressive. As you mentioned, Steins and Conker, really, really great way to start the season, right? When you're in that part of the grid, you want to have that momentum. You want to get yourself farther forward so you can be in that lead pack when it pulls away. Especially with 42 drivers in the field, Xander, you don't want to be back there in the low 20s, high 20s, low 30s. There's a lot of battling going on. You want to get out front. You want to be in that early fight and that early breakaway pack. And for guys like White, Avancino, Steins, and Conker, look at the guys behind them. Myers and Wick, two of the drivers we've seen at the very top of the order here for many, many years.
And for both of them to make it in, well, at least they did their job. It's a clean slate now. Everyone's back on level playing field when it comes to Superpole, but there were some that did not make it into the top 12. And again, here's how we've gotten to our 12 drivers for Superpole qualifying.
This is Pro Shifter Qualifying. It's broken up into 2 stages, and in stage 1, the field is split into 2 groups. The top 6 fastest drivers from each group will advance to stage 2, the SKUSA Superpole. These 12 drivers will have only 2 laps to set the fastest time to sort themselves in the top 12 starting position. Let's find out who's the fastest driver in the world.
Touched on it a good bit with Danny Formal. Again, he's not the only one that did not make it through that we expected to, or at least expected to make it through easily. A couple drivers that were right below the cut line. Of course, Jacob Gulick also in that first session, and he's going to be buried pretty far down the order, unfortunately, Rob, after the way it went for him. He was 13th, I believe, in his group, and we'll do some quick math to try and figure out where that will slot him when it comes to the overall blend, because unlike last year where it's easy for us to do the math from up here in the booth, the lines are locked. This year it'll be an even blend. So with Jacob Gulick on the outside looking in from his qualifying session, for example, the number 2 plate from last season not getting to go into Superpole at round 1, well, he is going to be, he was 8th in his group, but it was a 50.77. That was his best lap. It got him close at the end.
Yeah, that's 12th. That would have been 12th in group 2. So he's going to lose at least 4 or 5 more spots down the order as well. It's going to be, again, it's going to be a deep start for Jacob Gulick for sure. But I love this. This is the focus now. This is green, white, checker. This is go out, get it done, get the tires in, and get 1 lap, really, Xander. It's that second lap. You cannot make a mistake if you want to qualify P1.
Now it looks like, contrary to what we were anticipating, they will be sending them out in loosely it looks like they're going to send them out in lap time order. I believe it was meant to be an invert, but they are going to go with the fastest 2 overall drivers on the front row of this. So Gavin Bailiff's going to go out first, and Mateus Morgado should go out second, which means that it'll be a big-time surprise if some of the drivers in 11th or 12th, some of our last ones crossing the line, are able to knock off the overall pole time. They're all gapped out, though, so there'll be plenty of time to focus on each driver as the outlaps begin. And one by one, they fire off, and they're on the same set of tires that they ran in that first stage. We saw Billy Musgrave pull in pretty early. A couple drivers ran all the way to the end of their qualifying session. Do those extra couple of laps make a difference? That's going to be a big question mark here as to whether or not that's going to help or hurt drivers, because you may have wanted the heat to retain in the tire by running more laps and hopefully get it a little hotter, so it's going to be nice and warm when you go out for Superpole, but the trade-off, you burned off a little more rubber.
Yeah, we're going to see which strategy pays off here very quickly. As we said, there's Morgado there, the PSL karting Bureau Art #1 machine, and again, Morgado out second rather. It's Billy Bailiff out first, then Morgado second. So we are going to see the fast guys come out too quickly. These times that get laid down over the course of 2 laps. It'll be lap number 2. I don't think anybody's really going to go. Hey, listen, if your opening lap's the fastest lap, you're not going to be in good shape. You need to have that second lap when the tires are as hot as they possibly can be. Look at that. Little Morgado throwing it in there, trying to back it into the corner, a little bit, build more heat into the tire. You got to make sure you're on it. And again, crucial, Xander, is getting a really good 13, 14, 15. You really need to get on your first lap really quickly through and set up for that final lap. You can't make a mistake there in those last corners there, the last complex, to be able to get out onto the straightaway clean. This is one of the most important corners here for the start of this qualifying lap.
We're watching the number 64, Gavin Bailiff, take us through those final couple corners to start his opening lap. And talking about storylines, Rob, well, switching over to the Red Army after the Las Vegas Super Nationals for Trinity Karting Group was one of the bigger moves over the offseason. And for Gavin Bailiff, this weekend is probably a bit of an opportunity to prove himself, call the Winter Series what it was, spring training for the national season. But last year he was kind of on an island as the lone Kart Republic, and one of the only drivers on the engine program he was doing, which was his own, building his own motors. Now he gets to be under the wing and tutelage of what has been arguably the powerhouse for not just shifter kart chassis and PSL karting and Bureau Art, but Dominic Lebrec and the TMKZ-powered PSL engine program, and learn from them. So now, going quick in that first group, that's a good starting point. And now we're watching here as the checkered flies. He just went to a 50.17. So already, Morgado not able to beat him. Quarantine Russo not able to beat him. We're following AJ Myers here on lap 2.
How big would this be for Bailiff to go P1 here out of the gate at 50.175? Does he come away with it here? Again, checker flag flying for everybody. Can Bailiff come away with the super pole? Across the line. Guys moving up. White to 8. Avancino to 9th.
Charlie Steins! No way! The Factory Fury GP Kart boys to the top. Here comes Myers, one of the last to the line. 7th! Charlie Steins!
In unison, Xander and I screaming out Charlie Steins. One more driver to come. Wick goes to P3. I think that may be it.
It is. Kyle Wick and AJ Myers, the last to the line. A first career pole award for the Factory Fury GP Kart squad. And in only his second season, I believe, in Pro Shifter, Charlie Steins to the top of qualifying. What a performance. What a run for the number 84.
Does he even know it yet?
I doubt it. He's going to get it right now. There he goes. A thumbs up.
I think
Charlie Steins, pole award winner from Super Pole.
Wow. That is absolutely fantastic.
Let's go. Congrats, bro. Good shit. Oh, yeah. Bro, Charlie. I didn't see anything on either one. Both got catch. Yeah. Hell yeah, Charlie. Let's go. Hell yeah, bro. What's he run? 50.1? Roughly. Yeah.
How do you like that, Xander? All the drivers there. They're cheering him on, congratulating him. I love seeing that in this category.
Oh, yeah. Charlie Stein. I mean, look at there's the smile. And again, probably a bit of surprise for himself, too, especially how he got in. It wasn't a dominant run through the first stage, but he turned on the tires at the perfect time on that second lap, the money lap. He nearly ran over the back of one of the Maranellos he caught at the very end. And again, Kyle Wick sneaking his way to third. Jay Irwin also jumped up the board on his second lap quite a bit behind Gavin Bailiff. He'll end up, I think, 4th overall. But what a lap for this group. 2 entries, the same 2 from last year. Charlie himself and Eli Fox, who unfortunately has had some woes here to start this weekend, and he did not transfer out of his Qualy group. But, I mean, talk about what was a surprise and elation and excitement last year to make it to Super Pole 1 year to the weekend. Charlie Steins maximizes Super Pole.
Talk about a shocker to start off the day, start off this year's Pro Tour. You know, we're always looking for a guy like a Morgado, like a Wick, Myers, Formal. Those are the guys we expect, you know, to be up front, because that's where they've been year in and year out. Gavin Bailiff almost was able to come away with this thing, but Charlie Steins in that last lap lays it down 58 thousandths of a second quicker than Bailiff. Let's just say that too. Gavin Bailiff, P2. We talked about the pace that he had at the winter series. You know, this isn't the spring training. This is rolling into the big show. He'll be on the outside of the front row. So Steins and Bailiff really shocking things here. Kyle Wick ends up in 3rd. Jay Irwin 4th. Quarantine Rousseau in 5th. Musgrave 6th. Morgado back in 7th. How big of a storyline is that right now that Morgado will be on the inside of row number 4, Xander, to the start of the heat races?
Yeah, Mateus Morgado buried. Danny Formal buried even further. Jacob Gulick, we from what we can estimate, around maybe 15th overall. He was second below the cut line in his group. But check it out. Now that he's through the scales, they can get that cart onto the stand, and we'll be able to have a word with Charlie. But I'm sure he's got a crowd around him that are going to be stoked that this small powerhouse team packed a punch and repped Indiana to the top of the board in Super Bowl qualifying.
Big congratulations there from Keith Ward as well. And it's time to talk to this young man. What a qualifying performance. That's 2 laps, Xander. We're talking about it, getting it done.
I'm standing by.
Charlie, what a lap. The emotion, not so much from you, but walk me through that lap, man.
Yeah, it was a really good start. Just, I think that big puddle in turn 1 added to my, just like being able to get through that. I have some experience on it, and just that adaptability through that wet section helped me out getting through there. And then towards the end of the lap, I think it was Avancino up in front of me. He bobbled it and gave me a nice just guide throughout the rest of the lap to follow.
Looking ahead to the heat races, you have a hungry pack of wolves behind you looking to chase you down. How are you feeling going into the races, starting at the front of the field?
I think I feel comfortable. I've had some experience just getting through and getting starts. It's just now the added pressure of being up front will be there, but I don't think there should be any problem.
Well, enjoy the moment, man. Congrats on your maiden pole position.
Thank you.
There you guys.
Thank you.
There you guys have from Charlie Stein, starting on the pole in Pro Shifter. Yeah, ranges. Yeah, I'm already walking that way. I don't know if anybody has played hands down there. I'm thinking about hose clamping them onto the railing.
Welcome back for qualifying. KA Senior now onto the racetrack, and we are releasing a massive swarm as this class, like many, is sold out here this weekend, Rob. 46 on the grid.
Yeah, listen, there are times before we've been able to, even the Super NAS, we opened it up to the 70, 80, whatever it may be. But for an event like this where obviously time constraints, so many categories, it's packed. 3 of the classes completely sold out. They moved it all the way up to 46, knowing that they occasionally get a couple of cancellations. So indeed, full grid here for KA100 Senior. And this year, drivers able to do both the KA100 Senior and the Pro X30 category. So we'll see a number of drivers doing double duty. Not as many as I expected. When we did our ECAN Outlap preview podcast, I think it was only 7 drivers, Standard, that were both running both KA100 Senior and Pro X30. A lot of drivers focusing just on the one category.
Yeah, this is an interesting point here to talk about, and also to talk about going back on that blend for Pro Shifter. These were a couple of minor changes that were done in the offseason after feedback from the race teams. Obviously, the Pro Shifter formats changed, and it's funny this weekend, Rob, with a quickly developing racetrack, how big the delta was of the first fast group to the slow group. Last year, the feedback was, well, we don't like being locked into our lanes from happy hour being the odd lane or the even-numbered lane, inside or outside lane, if we don't make it to Super Pole. The good part about that is you knew that you were on even conditions of everyone in your group. Now they've asked, we want our lap times to rank us. Okay, but now you have an issue like a developing racetrack here at SpeedSports, and a guy like Jacob Gulick, who was 8th in his group, is going to end up around 15th or 16th. And the second minor change was, like you said, allowing drivers this year to go back to running double duty. And it's happened in a couple cases. Finnegan Bailiff, for example, and the Trinity Karting Group camp. They don't have a ton of Pro X30 drivers. Finn would like to be one, but they still need to continue to build on their KA Senior program, and they can't pull them out of it yet. So it was helpful for them. For Diego Ramos and Timothy Pernod, it's double track time at a racetrack that Timothy hasn't raced at, but specifically for both of them, similar boat to Trinity, except they've got a great X30 Pro kind of program together. They don't really have much in KA Senior beyond Henry Wheeler, so they wanted a little help, and they're able to double the value out of superstars. And hopefully that guy at the bottom right corner of your screen, who was fastest at happy hour yesterday, might be able to take advantage and go the other way and double up in Pro X30 later this year. Former IAME International Final Champion Oliver Hodgson.
A heck of a shoe, and you know that anytime Hodgson rolls into a track, he's one of the drivers we'll be watching to potentially come away with the win. First group onto the racetrack, as we had said, Finnegan Bailiff out front right now with a 56.016. Maxime Barron runs in second, Jackson Menchue in third, Carter Thompson fourth, and Paul Elefante rounding out the top 5. Christian Velez, Roussel, Harrower, Kaufman, Andriatos to complete the top 10. As we said, you got the rest of the field sitting there waiting in the wings to see what kind of time Bailiff or one of the fast drivers able to put up here as a provisional pole time. 56.006. Bailiff now flirting to break it into the 55s. And again, sorry, I mean to jump on top there. You mentioned that we should bring this up right now, is the fact this track is changing so much. We got a hard driving rain yesterday afternoon, scouring this racetrack off. You can still see some of the standing water in the lower parts of the track here. It's still really starting, I think, develop again. Every section, every different group is very likely going to go quicker.
And they're going to go quicker, I think, by a lot. So out of Pro Shifter, I mean, it was a 7 or 8 tenth delta there. Let's see what the delta is for Cooper Auclair in this group, on top of the fact that this track does have a long enough straightaway for the draft to make a bit of a difference. I mean, it's got some pretty good technical infield parts. The first section with the chicane, maybe speaking from experience, isn't overly difficult in a KA Senior. It's very difficult to get through and keep grip in, say, a Pro Shifter or Pro X30 package. But as we look right now with the last couple crossing the line, pulling them up to see for any other changes in KA Senior's first group. The last lap there was actually the fast group. They snuck in the first 11 to get 5 down before the checkers hit for them, and they did change a little.
Bailiff able to get another spot. He was P1 for a time, fell down to the 5th position as Cooper Auclair goes quickest. So Auclair was up top, Jackson Menchue second, Chris Harrower in third, Bailiff fourth, and Timothy Pernod rounding out the top 5. Autumn Fisher, a good qualifying run there too in that first group. She's 7th ahead of Maxime Barron, and the rest of the field. Again, we get 23 drivers, Xander, in this group. We'll split it evenly, 23 in the next group, and it will be a 55.834 as provisional pole time.
Engines fired already, and they're going to roll off really quickly here. So the entire grid, nobody looks like they're opting to wait towards the back of it. We're going to send the entire division of Nash Motorsports KA Seniors Fast Group all the way back to Henry Wheeler there in the 903. He returns this year along with James Overbeck for another run at the Pro Tour title. Those two put on a great show at Newcastle, and that's one part that I think is both cool and a bit of a bummer from our angle, Rob. I know the drivers want to always race the best no matter what, and I think a lot of them are excited that the window's back open to bat both ways, either to jump up a little bit early and test the waters in Pro X30 or Pro Shifter or vice versa, get more of those pros to join in KA Senior. But it was kind of cool to have a completely different cast of characters last year with Overbeck and Wheeler kind of headlining a lot of race weekend. This year, pressure will be on them to stay in the headline with more headline drivers joining them.
Quentin Angeli in the number 984 off track here. Not what you want to do on the opening lap of a qualifying run. He's going to try to get himself back out onto the track and get things rolling again, but that's big time putting you behind the 8 ball to start off a race day. Remember, 2 full race days, round 1 and round 2. It's the Pro Shifter driver, Xander, who will run just 1 race weekend. We'll have 1 winner come Sunday afternoon.
You can see already Landon Skinner and James Overbeck trying to make use of that backstretch to keep Oliver Hodgson in their sights. It's no surprise that not only was Danny Formalquick being a taller driver and having a higher center of gravity on the wet conditions and the low grip conditions of yesterday afternoon, but Oliver Hodgson, a Brit, to do the same in the wet and the low grip conditions as well, because it normally looks a lot more like the weather like this over there where he's from. But granted, at this point, he spent almost a third of his life now here in the States. He said earlier this weekend he is so excited to get out east a good bit more this year. That's a big priority for him and his driver academy to try and branch out from his HQ over in Phoenix, Arizona this weekend, halfway in the middle. And right now, this second lap for him at speed is going to put him 7th. So pretty good ways up the grid.
Yeah, the driver's dropping the hammer very quickly here right now. Cooper O'Clair, remember, who was quickest of that first group back in 9th already. And again, track coming in, the speed from the faster group. We knew they would attack immediately. Alex Machado to the top of the charts right now on the Sodi Kart number 979. James Overbeck right there. Oliver Calvo, Frankie Mossman, Blake Nash. Current top 5, still a long way to go in the runs. We expect them to get 4, maybe even 5 laps in if they're putting the hammer down early.
Watching the 979 of Alex Machado right now, middle of the pack, and probably got a decent toe lap last time around to be able to go where he did, as he trails, I believe that might be the 903 of Mauricio Hernandez, one of the RPG entries. Let's look, not 903, but further back, 908. Donovan Bonilla, that's an RPG entry that just went up and into the top 10. Here he is on screen with Ty Fisher and Eli Warren in tow, all 3 jumping up.
Big run down the back straightaway here. This is when these tires start to come up to the temperatures. Big move to the inside there. That's Machado in the number 979, still holding P1 by about 42 thousandths over Blake Nash, who's moved to 2nd on lap number 3. So count it less than a half a tenth of a second between Machado and Nash. Peyton Phillips now up in the 3rd. The Texan knows this track extremely well, so if there's any home track knowledge, a driver like Phillips will be able to optimize that. Hodgson running 4th. Frankie Mossman, Winter Tour champion, in 5th.
Peyton Phillips, new colors for him this year in the black and gold Arcane Motorsports Tony Kart. Let's see if he can make anything of it. He'll go to 3rd. Frankie Mossman to the top. Hodgson 2nd. Machado's going to answer again. And this group's going to get another lap. A few drivers hitting the line now will be done. I think Henry Wheeler might be checkered, keeping a tab on live timing, but this fast group here should get one more go at it.
Indeed, Frankie Mossman able to get below the 55-second mark, 54.960, just 2 drivers, he and Machado. Machado, we believe, has already got that checkered flag. He was not able to sneak through to get lap number 5, so the guys who were able to get out front early and push hard on cold tires are going to get that 1 more lap, and we'll see if it pays off for them. Frankie Mossman on top, but again, Xander, as you said, Overbeck in this group as well. A lot of drivers with 1 more shot at it.
Into the dog leg and that last turn following Landon Skinner, who had a great happy hour. Doesn't look as happy with the go-kart here in Qualy. He's one of the few in that pack not in the top 10. Will this lap put him there? It will. He'll go to 5th, and Phillips on the final lap is going to bump Frankie Mossman off the top spot. The 9:58 pole in Houston, just a couple hours down the road from his hometown of Austin, Texas. Peyton Phillips to Hodgson. And a big lap out of the California kid, Blake Nash, to 3rd.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Arcane Motorsports driver, Peyton Phillips, the Texan, using that local knowledge, as I had said, to go P1, former Winter Series champion in this KA100 senior category as well. Phillips on top, Hodgson, Nash, Mossman, another Texan, Landon Skinner for GFC in the 5th spot. Machado, who led for a time there, Xander, he'll be happy with P6. James Overbeck 7th, Bonilla 8th, Wheeler and Eli Warren rounding out the top 10.
Ty Fisher, we followed him a little bit in that one. The rookie's going to roll from 11th for the pre-final today. Oliver Calvo and his seemingly less and less part-time schedule has him 12th. I say that in a good way. Happy to have him back. And Diego Ramos on the PSL BRLR, a little bit further back than maybe what he would have liked to be. Half a second off, I think, is probably the bigger number, too.
Good run for Nico Sarfati. Celebrated his 14th birthday yesterday, making the jump up here. His first Pro Tour run in the KA100 senior category for GFC. 46 driver field. Sarfati P14, pretty solid. Of course, a couple of drivers who have made moves to new teams. Brandon Lemke with Speed Concepts Racing, and I mentioned Eli Warren running with Holtz Driver Development here in 2025. So some interesting storylines, but Peyton Phillips, local driver here, the Texan, goes P1, 54.754, just under a 10th quicker than Oliver Hodgson.
Let's take a look back at some that were outside. It was a 9:33 Mauricio Hernandez that ended up 17th. That was the one I miscued for the 9:03 earlier on. Cooper O'Clair from fastest in the first group. That's kind of what we expected. That was an was a full second delta from him to the eventual pole. Mark it at maybe 3 or 4 tenths, maybe a half second as the difference. But overall, still a good enough effort to make the most of what you can when you end up in the slow group, and that's go fastest of your group. He'll be middle of the field. This guy will lead 46 drivers to green here. Peyton Phillips and Arcane Motorsports, their first major race weekend together on the national stage, and it looks good.
I'm sure he's pretty happy with that qualifying run, again, getting out front, especially with a 46-car field, right? We talked about the fact that you got to see some of these drivers down here in the high 20s, low 30s who have work to do, stay out of trouble, try to battle your way forward in that pre-final to get yourself into a better spot for the main event this afternoon. But Peyton Phillips, almost a full tenth of a second rather over Hodgson. 91 thousandths was the gap between first and second. There's Ty Fisher there as well, just outside the top 10 looking in. He'll be 11th for Ty Fisher in front of Oliver Calvo. They'll be alongside each other on row number 6.
Of course, all this still pending what the drivers have to go through right here on your screen. That is the post-race, post-session scale line, as well as tech for the top drivers. They're going to check engine seals. They'll scan everyone's tires, do a quick check of everyone's fuel. So there's a lot of technical aspects that could shuffle that grid order. All results that we mentioned and show on your screen, of course, provisional. And beyond that, well, the SuperCarts USA officials, they've got eyes everywhere in the scale line, on the racetrack, and cameras to back them up. There's always the potential for extra penalties on track related in these qualifying sessions. We've got more of them to go. Pro X30, of course, will cap off the lineup, but before that, we've still got the likes of Mini Swift and X30 Jr. on deck.
Stop. For just over $200. I'm tired of all this branding business, okay? Branding this, branding that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats, they got MXCs. And if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental US over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me?
Brandon, why are there all these charges
stop.
for just over $200?
I'm tired of all this branding business, okay? Branding this, branding that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR?
5 minutes on the board for X30 Jr. And, well, it's already getting a little bit hairy. That is the 750 that has spun around in the last turn. One of the Rollison Performance Group entries of Clayton Drysdale. But here is Tyrone Kemper Jr. all by himself. This is his first weekend, I believe, pulling double duty on the SCR Red Speed, the 705, or Jose Shermer, sorry. Mixed up a black and yellow helmet, but let me tell you something, Rob. There are a lot of black, white, and red go-karts this weekend. SCR, I believe, is at 21 drivers. Wow. It is one of their biggest turnouts they have had on the regular season in nearly 2 seasons.
You mentioned Tyrone Kemper Jr. He'll be one of the drivers I expect to be working his way up front. He knows this racetrack, former Texas Pro Sprint Series champion, so watch for him to be a driver to battle. Look, there's an issue here for the 704. That's not the way you want to get things underway. Juan Cantu having to get that kart pulled back out onto the track. Again, we talk about that. Get through the opening couple laps, guys. The tires are going to be cold, as we know. The track still, if they're coming up to temperature, it is significantly warm. It's 71 degrees here trackside right now, and there is a potential, I looked at potential chance for some weather midday through. We'll see whether or not that's still trending. But nonetheless, drivers trying to find open racetrack there. Making a move coming down straightaway into turn number 6. Got to be smart in these opening laps. Try to find the person to play with. You want to be with someone who can be your rabbit. You don't want to be with someone that's going to choke up on you, get maybe a little early coming into some of the corners, break a little early, not carrying the same amount of corner speed. It's very important to find the right dance partner, Xander, during a qualifying session like this.
Oh, it's huge. You got to trust the drivers around you. First, you got to trust the drivers behind you that if they do get a run on you, they're going to pass you in a place that's painless and still give you a chance for a good lap. Maybe push you if they think that you're still going to be able to lead them well. And then you got to trust the drivers in front of you to hit their marks. If you're trying to line up behind someone to get a toe off of them, well, you want to hope that they don't blow a corner, because if they have a bad lap, you're going to have a bad lap, having to run in the back of them, back off, or have to make a pass. Every move offline is at half tenth, 2/10, and that could be not just 1 or 2 positions, 5 or 10. Even in classes that haven't had as big a turnouts, at Houston here at SpeedSports, 370 entries, every class is a near sellout with the exception of Master Shifter. So X30 Jr., 40 deep, they could also easily see a 10 position swing off one miscue like what we just saw there.
And well, again, we'll expect 4, maybe 5 laps here. The big move to the inside of turn number 14, that's not really the place you want to do it. You kind of give up that lap and you give up the next one because you're not getting the corner out of there. Look at these drivers. They're battling hard. This is the final couple laps of qualifying. Leonardo Saravalli goes P1 here. Benham Abernathy now up into 2nd. Jose Shermer in 3rd. Luis Fernando Nunez in 4th. And Peyton Anderson 5th. Final lap for these drivers here, as we're going to very likely get around. They're going to get potentially 5. I don't see 6 laps, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out here as the drivers working their way again through turn 7 and 8. Don't want to get into a scrum, though, where you got elbows up. You want to be able to try to have that partner. Xander and I just kind of went over it. We saw a couple of drivers making knife bomb moves down to the inside of turn 14. That ruins that lap and the next one.
They're going to have, yeah, Benham Abernathy going by. That is going to be Saravalli, I think, that went by him as well, going by the 704 as well. And he's going to try and reset and get back into line. But the delta in this group is going to be a lot bigger. The gap's going to be a lot bigger from front to back because it is the slow group. Juan Cantu, a 56.7, was his best. And I don't know if he'll get a chance to go anything better if he's got that car wound back up by the time he hit the finish line. But the leaders are over 2 seconds better than him. Jeremiah Thomas also about 2 seconds off, and a few more are over a second off the pace. So if they have a bad lap, or if they, again, start with not a big enough gap back to the fast drivers, they'll get caught. And you can even see yellows waving, and I think this one might have gotten the checker a moment or 2 early, because I believe they were supposed to go just about on the money. 5 laps for half the group, 4 for the other half.
Kind of what we expected, right?
Yeah, no, just minus 4 minutes, 5 laps for the first half of the group, 4 laps basically for the group that doesn't get out of the pits quick enough, and that's why you're going to see this.
Yeah,
everyone rushing to get out.
Exactly, get out and get it done. Sometimes we see drivers kind of hang in the back, but no, these guys want to get out quickly and get it done. Benham Abernathy with the fast lap. That's your provisional pole, 54.352. Leonardo Saravalli, Jose Schirmer, Luis Fernando Nunez, and Peyton Anderson. That was the top 5, but once again, these drivers all for the faster group, ready to tackle it quickly. One driver having some trouble here.
That is one of the Iron Rock entries. Oh, is that Bobby Klein, I think? That might be the 746.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah, he's got his suit down, so he's going to miss out there. I don't know what the issue is. You can see the SKUSA official was standing by, and the way that he was kind of positioned on the grid, it didn't look like there was a lot of like franticness there. I mean, you would think that with the way Qualy's, enough laps in it, 5 or 4 at the worst for everyone that leaves on time, that you could still make a quick fix, like I don't know, whatever you need to do to get the engine fired and get 1 lap in. Makes me think that it's not mechanical. He may have been late to the grid.
Oh, I wonder. Yeah, you can see him in the background there as they were coming through turn number 14 and 15. And indeed, as you said, suit was coming off. There was nobody jumping on the cart to try to get it going. So indeed, it could have been some kind of a penalty. Forced him not to be able to take to the track. Abernathy, again, that's your provisional pole. He still sits on top of the tower there, 54.352. But watch for the next drivers to come. Jackson Porter, Alexander Vanchev, the fastest of the outlaps at a 57.7, 58. Again, those are just warming those tires up. Watch these drivers get out. There's the 796 right there. Alexander Vanchev. There's the 722 Jackson Porter as well. Both these drivers were running up front in the SKUSA Winter Series back in January and February. Porter, the Arizona driver. Vanchev right behind him as well. Open racetrack up front, so expect them to start putting good lap times down. Yeah, Vanchev already up into the top 15. He and Porter go 13th and 14th, Xander, on lap number 2.
And Jackson Porter a little bit too far up the road to get any benefit, but for Alexander Vanchev, that's dream scenario, having a great rabbit to chase, and if you're a little bit better than him, you might just get a sniff of draft at the end of the session when the tires will be the best, when you'll be driving the best. So we could easily see the 796 continue to build on that momentum streak that we saw him kick off to start the year at his home racetrack in Orlando over here in the middle of the U.S. in Houston. Now, looking back in that first group, again, they're still around the same order from the way they came off the grid, which is how they were slotted at the end of happy hour yesterday. Sarah Bradley was promoted to top of the board after a penalty was handed down. She still is 3rd on the racetrack, and as they hit the loop for another lap at speed, is going to end up, well, she's going to end up okay, but that entire group not too quick overall. Vanchev ends up 2nd. Everyone else that's gone quicker and to the top, like Nathan Dupuis, is further back.
Yeah, you're right. They're going to have to get another one in here. Again, lap number 3, we're expecting the drivers, at least at the very front, those that bolted off the grid, to get 5 laps in. So working lap number 4 right now with Dupuis on top. Nathan Dupuis in the 741, a 54.109 to a 54.226 for Alexander Vanchev, just over a 1/10 of a second. There's the 741 at Dupuis right there, running with Nash Motorsports. Doesn't have the open track that we've talked about here. Vanchev being able to potentially chase down Jackson Porter. Sarah Bradley lined up to potentially hook up with Vanchev, but we're getting the fast lap coming from the tail of this group here from the 741 at Dupuis. Marco Samet, though, now goes P1 in the 775, so he dials it up a little bit here. 53.919. 3 drivers standing below the 54-second mark.
That's big. Marco Samet is getting a little bit of help from Nathan Dupuis chasing down Ashton Woon, but he won't get it on this last lap. Dupuis is going to pass him here in the back hairpin, so that'll take the 715 out of contention for the pole, or 775, but he still sits on it, at least provisionally, I should say.
Jackson Porter, who we knew was out front there, now onto the bumper of his teammate Alexander Vanchev. Vanchev 3rd. Porter all the way back in 14th. Like you said, he had no chance. He was out the first guy on the racetrack, really. Out front, didn't have anybody to draft from. Now he's going to have some fun here with Vanchev, and they're likely going to be, this likely could be the fast last lap here. Do we see the checker flag when they come across the line? We do. That'll be it. Watching the ticker to see if anybody moves up. Sarah Bradley to P1, 53.900.
How about that? She didn't really make a lot of noise that whole session, but the SCR Sodi tops the board by 19 thousandths. It is a young and tiny but mighty front row of Sarah Bradley and rookie Marco Samet, Nathan Dupuis, Alexander Vanchev of the second and third year junior drivers on row 2. Max Weiland as well joins them on row 3 with rookie Ashton Woon, who had a big confidence booster weekend, I would say 2 weeks ago in Daytona. He was sensational down there. Jackson Gibson as well, great run for him in the 724. David Ybarra, I believe this is going to be his first weekend in an X30 Junior package. He'll put it in the top 10. Nice work.
Yeah, Jackson Porter, maybe a little too late. He needed to get behind Vanchev a little earlier than that. He ends up in the 16th spot. Eric Doan, the Californian, up into 15th there. Theon Shee, 14th. Travis Pettit, Jose Alejandro Halfin. We work our way back up towards the top 10. Nico Katowski, good run for TKG Burrard USA. Top 10 for Nico.
Yeah, how about that? So Nico Katowski in the 792. We saw him have about as high and low of a weekend as you can have throughout the Winter Series. Jose Halfin, Travis Pettit on the TV, Theon Shee, Eric Doan. And let's show you quickly here the rest of your X30 Juniors as they completed qualifying down to, again, Bobby Klein, the only one not to turn a lap out of the 45.
Yeah, Xander, how about 34 drivers within a second as well on a technical and challenging racetrack?
We know this next group will be close as well. Mini Swift is on deck, our second to last of the Group Sport qualifying. It's also our second to last of our free coverage sessions today. Once again, folks, as usual, the Kart Chaser live coverage is always free on replay following each race weekend, but to watch the action live for Heats 1 and 2 of Pro Shifter, for pre-finals and main events of all support divisions, and Pro X30 as well, it'll be exclusive to KC Premium members. If you are one, don't worry. This stream will instantly kick you over to the premium member feed when qualifying concludes. If you're not, well, you'll be able to join us again for free coverage tomorrow morning for warm-up and qualifying for round 2 of support classes in Pro X30, and special, of course, for the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour, the Pro Show, Pro Shifter main event, also free to view. So if you want to watch racing and you want to watch it this weekend, make sure to set your alarm. It'll be 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central, 12:30 p.m. Pacific, and I believe that'd be 7:30 p.m., right around dinner time GMT. I'm trying to do some quick math on daylight savings back and forth and where we are. We're Central Time for those that are looking in the description, and as well for those that are checking in on the live chat wanting to know what class is next. Well, we've got, of course, a schedule on the bottom. We've been flickering through the class lineup on the bottom of the screen. We'll also have on our link tree, tr.ee/kartchaser has the link to live timing via SpeedHive. Also has the link to the SuperKarts USA official timetable for the day. So trying to get everybody informed, and that way you know when to watch. Although, as we've talked about, Rob, every class, a sold-out grid pretty much. There's not really a bad division, and that's the one thing I wanted to break the action to talk to you about, because as an announcer, as someone that's been, of course, a part of SuperKarts USA's lineage for quite some time, to see a weekend like this, but to go into it knowing we've got great racing in every class with a full grid's got to be exciting.
Yeah, I think when we go back and look at the Winter Series, Xander, and how good the races were in the cadet categories, right? The Micro and Mini put on some of the best racing that we saw at the Winter Series, and that's the beauty of the sport right now. It's not just about the Pro Shifters and the Pro X30s, right? Of course, that's fantastic racing. Those are the names that we've watched for the last number of years, working their way up through the ranks to get their chance to be in the sun, in the spotlight. But these young drivers in the cadet classes, Mini and Micro, the racing that they put on is fantastic. And to think about the racecraft that they have at that age, realize you're trying to pull away, get in that lead group, work together to drop the driver off the back of the group and try to make it that two-driver fight at the end. I love when I see the strategy come with the young drivers, when they start to understand that it's not about just going out and trying to pass. There is strategy to it. You know, all the coaches are telling them that all weekend long and every time they're testing, every race they're at. But to see it really start to come into play, that's what I love to see, because you know the young minds are working in those helmets.
Yeah, and this racetrack, I think, is one of the best balances for them, that's going to have the pack, kind of draft pack mentality, and at the same point have enough tight and twisty sections for the drivers to flex their own muscle. You know, we go to places like Newcastle and Cincinnati. It might be great for Pro Shifter, Pro X30. It might be great even just for the full-size karts, KA Junior, X30 Junior, and above. but it becomes a bit of a super speedway fight for Mini and Micro Swift where there is a lot of strategy and there still is a skill set, albeit just a bit different than hot lapping to win at those places. But here at SpeedSports, this is what many drivers would consider a mid-range racetrack, and it's got a little bit of low speed. It does have that big backstretch, so there is going to be a pack. I would be surprised and very impressed if one of these Mini Swift Superstars put a big gap on the field in the races today. But it also does have enough separation at points to make a difference off your own skill set behind the wheel in terms of hitting your marks. And that balance, I think, is what's going to really let us see, as you like to talk about at the beginning of each year, Rob, who will be our new favorites, our new contenders in this age group with so many superstars moving to juniors.
That's it. As the drivers start moving up, the other pilots get their opportunity to get into the sun, as I said, get that spotlight time. And whether they develop, right? That's the key. Is some drivers, when they're younger, are going to take a little more time to develop, maybe 2-3 years in one of these categories before they really become a front runner and try to get themselves positioned for race wins. Some of them right out of the gate, coming right out of micro, right into mini, and they're immediately in the fight. We've seen a number of drivers do that already. So getting at it right now with the Mini Swift class. First group rolling out on track for their qualifying run. I expect to see maybe 4 laps. They're not going to get to the 5 laps here in the time we have. So 3 or 4 laps for drivers here in the Mini category. We'll see which ones step to the forefront. Tanner Barsh, the driver we're following there for Kart CRG USA. Barsh in the 151. Knows this track very well, Texan. And again, I think a lot of times for some of the younger drivers as well, when you are a local and know a track, it's going to give you a little bit more out of the gate. Now, granted, there's been quite a bit of practice time for the drivers here, for Wednesday, Thursday on, but of course with the rain that we had as well, it's kind of changed things up. A number of drivers have been here rather for the Texas Sprint Racing Series events over the last couple of years. They may have been here for the Rock Cup Florida Winter Tour race last week as well to try to find more track time, but otherwise they're going to continue to develop throughout every session, every time they get on track. As is the racetrack, Xander. We haven't talked about it a little bit with that torrential rain that we had yesterday afternoon, really cleansing this track in a big way after the rubber was put down throughout the day. We're going to see this track evolve with more and more rubber and more grip as we get to the main events this afternoon.
No doubt. I mean, this racetrack has taken an unbelievable amount of grip and is also, in this section alone, had a lot of dirt, debris, and rubber bits, as we like to call marbles, be pushed offline. More than any local driver, any regional driver would have ever seen probably at this place. Talking with Alan Rudolph, he and I were one of the first couple here on property this morning, and I mean, he has been working his tail off. His wife, Jessica, of course, really the boss around here, but she and Alan, both of them, I mean, they have done such an amazing job, as every track owner is basically asked to when the circus comes to town, of these massive events and the massive turnouts here to make this place work and be able to facilitate it all. And I know he's excited to see it, but it's such a level up in every aspect. And another part of it is that on-track development. So for your Texas locals, for your Houston locals, this is still kind of new territory, even if they've driven this racetrack a million times.
Yeah, because it's going to be different. You're right. You never had this much rubber down, this many drivers on the track, and this much that's marbling off the side of the racetrack as well. It's just such a different condition for drivers who are local. You saw one driver have some trouble there, and he was obviously not happy with it at all. Quite upset. R.J. Brown in the number 171, the R3 machine, having trouble there. That's not what you want to have. He was only able to get a couple laps in, and he is falling now down into 17th. So Brown's got work to do in the pre-final. Have to fight his way forward. Enzo Di Gennaro, the driver on top here right now with the 59.029. Di Gennaro with the fastest lap thus far. Surprising that he was in the slower group, but then watching for him to find big pace when we get into the pre-final this afternoon. He's a driver we expect to come here and potentially go for a race win.
Yeah, Enzo De Janeiro, Sebastian de Moisac. Win Gottschalk was, I think, decent out of the entire pack through the whole session, but I'm not going to be surprised at all if we see this SCR Sodi go to the top this lap. He got a good run towards Enzo. Enzo's bailed out, but I don't think he realized the checkered flag's coming. So is Zane Burgess going to punch his ticket a little bit higher? They'll hit the line. It will be Moisac that goes to the top over De Janeiro. Troy Ferguson with a good lap He'll go up and into the top 5. Burgess down to 5th. Brandon Ang 6th.
So one thing there, just to bring back up, and I kind of forgot about the fact I mentioned that I didn't think De Janeiro would be in the slow group. Remember, yesterday's session was in the wet yesterday afternoon as well, right?
Yeah.
So the split is we got a lot of big guns here, what would normally be the slower group coming off happy hour. So again, guys like Zane Burgess, guys like De Janeiro, Gottschalk, Ferguson, these are drivers we know are going to be up front, and that's why that last lap in qualifying was pretty impressive, and maybe more important, it's not like we have all the big guns coming in the next group.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Rob. I didn't even think about that either. We were so used to just looking at, okay, Enzo De Janeiro, Win Gottschalk, Sebastian De Moisac starting to make a name for himself, Zane Burgess, Troy Ferguson, Brandon Ang too. That could be a top 5 lead pack, and Cooper Lopez, also a winner from last weekend, like his CRG teammate, in Brody Stoffel from the micro categories. But I believe we may have had a spinner off the rip here for the fast group on the straightaway. We'll get an idea on who that was in a moment. For the meantime here, the Mini Swift drivers, they were the first group to go over the wet racetrack, and I think this one probably has the biggest half-and-half split of the fast guys in the slow group that opted to not go out with how torrential the downpour came in happy hour, Rob, compared to, say, Pro X30 that's coming up after the fact, and most of the field did have time and opted to switch over to the wet tires and a wet setup for the motor to run. So, yeah, let's see how this opening lap goes. Here's your leaderboard, and while they get dialed in, we'll get dialed in with the pit lane report from Caleb Biesca as well.
Let's talk about this week and how the return has been so far.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We got teammates, myself, Chase, the whole GFC and Formula Works team's been working super hard, and I feel like we're really close right now, and I'm ready to get qualifying underway and see if we can put it on top.
You know, what have been the struggles so far this week? You were struggling a little bit at the start of the week, but it looks like you guys are really back in here towards the end.
For sure, I think there's a little bit of inexperience on this tire with the X30 package, but we've put all our heads in and worked really hard, and I genuinely feel like we're really close right now, and I think warm-up would have gone better. We had a pretty bad track position, but coming in, I felt pretty confident and super excited to get into qualifying.
Yeah, it seems like a track that you like. Last time you were here, you were on the pole. What are you going to show us here in qualifying?
We're going to try and go 2 for 2.
There you go. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Again, that was Jake Drew, of course, Caleb was speaking to down on pit lane, one of GFC superstars, one of a trio headed up here for Pro X30 as the black and white crew returns to the 125 powered division, with Drew being their lone entrant a couple of years ago at the Supernats and running consistently inside the top 10. Now we'll catch up with what Jake gave us a little bit there in a moment. Let's of course stay dialed in here on the fast group and Mini Swift, Rob, because we've got a lot to update the viewers on. Yeah,
actually with Jaden Francisco, I believe, is the fastest driver here in lap number 2, so they're starting to work their way up. Santiago Orioli as well, Alex Chandler, Lawrence Perriman, Cameron Johnson, all the drivers are kind of the quickest so far here on lap number 2. They were able to get 4 laps in, so indeed still a couple more laps to go for these drivers here as they try to work their way back up the order here and see which driver is going to break into the top 10 first. Indeed, Xander's going to be Royce Vega. He'll go to P8 here on lap number 3. No, 2. That's lap 2 for Vega. So 2 more laps to go for Royce Vega, already up into the 8th spot.
Big move there for Royce. How about that? Right on cue, Rob. He'll go to the top and then get pipped by 8 thousandths. Maxwell Macha and that Velocity Racing Sodi now at a 58.91. And I think we're going to see another big lap here out of the entire field this time by. Nobody popping out of that main group. Royce, as we could see, tail end of it in a good spot. I think behind him, not sure which Parolin that is, looks to be in a decent position as well. That is the 111.
Cameron Johnson.
Oh, he's in a great spot.
Try to leverage that where you're able to get that big drop, especially with 3 drivers in front of you as well, right? Just keep digging for Cameron Johnson. He's currently in the 10th spot, back by about 0.2 of a second from Maxwell Macha. And it's Macha, Vega, Dave Moisek, Aston Wyatt now up into 4th ahead of Alex Chandler. So a lot of action here in this group.
Across the line, checkered flag. Jaden Francisco to the top now, and it'll change quite a bit. Macha answers 58.63. What a shake-up there. Santi Orioli, first weekend with the black and orange. He goes to 4th. Boardman into the top 5. Byron Boardman with a big lap, and the same for Ty Morarek. I believe that would be a career best starting position for Ty. P3 right now on the 177.
Right now it's Macha, Francisco, Morowek, Orioli, and Boardman. Drivers checking up, working their way into the scales right now. So yeah, we had a lot of action there. And in fact, remember, Demoisiak was the fastest driver in group number 1. He ends up at 7th. So some of those top drivers further back. De Janeiro back in 10th spot. Win Godshock in 11th. Troy Ferguson all the way down in 15th, Sander. A lot of action there. And listen, got to go back to Cameron Johnson. He's all the way into 16th. Zane Burgess, 17th. There is your top 15 with Maxwell Macha in the 174 grabbing the pole here for Mini Swift.
So correction for myself here. Ty Moravietz is the driver, P3. Ty Moravietz.
Moravietz. All right, I like that.
Yeah, a little bit different too. That one looks a lot like Philip Niemkowicz, but doesn't have the Z at the end of it. We'll get it right as long as he keeps doing his job there, because he's going to force us to P3 for the SCR driver. And looking at that first group, even though the track has definitely gotten better, Rob, we're watching Win Godshock fall down outside the top 10. Enzo De Janeiro down to 10th. Only a 3.5, 3/10 kind of difference there, but still that's enough to make a few positions up or back. Aston Wyatt, Alex Chandler, Sebastian De Moisac all able to stay in the top 10 when the checkered flew, and De Moisac out of that slow group. Royce Vega within 3/10 of the top 6. We'll quickly show you the final top 15 and then all the way back to 44th. Big notable here, Liam Nachawati in the 180. That's that superstar who had the major win in Orlando. From 18th on the grid, we'll have to go from 44th in today's pre-final.
Wow. A couple drivers further back as well. Danny O'Gara there in the 31st spot. Lucas Tarango all the way back in 34th. There is work to be done when we go wheel-to-wheel racing. Nachawati will be the driver to watch coming through the field. We'll see if he picks up some of the stragglers with him to kind of get themselves back up. So, indeed, good qualifying run, though. Xander, we're not quite done. Still one more category to come.
Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR, with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today. DPK Americas is bridging the gap between the U.S. and the 2-time world champion DPK Alonso Kart factory team in Europe.
In partnership with Team Binnick, they offer drivers a complete career path from the Americas to Europe that allows them to continue their driver development on both sides of the world, all underneath the DPK umbrella.
For more information, contact DPK Americas at max@drivensm.com to take the next step in your driver development journey today.
K1 Circuit, the world's greatest outdoor karting facility, is now open. Open karting and rental session schedules are available online. Rentals will resume today after the race event at 5 p.m. Thanks to Kart Chaser for live streaming the event at K1 Circuit. Your coverage will resume shortly.
first group onto the racetrack for Pro X30 Qualifying. This is our final qualifying session for day number 1 of the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour. And the Winter Nationals Pro X30 Quali, like Rob mentioned, similar to Mini Swift, the massive lightning-filled rain shower hit at the very end of final practice yesterday. 36 of the 43 went out onto the racetrack, so there was still a good amount of the field, but it's far from an accurate read on wet and dry tires, and we're seeing obviously still drivers not quite guessing the grip level right as Chase Hand goes a little bit wide there, and we are getting some reports of maybe that liquid sunshine from yesterday, that rain just sprinkling the racetrack right now.
Yeah, a quick look outside the booth here. I can't quite see it here, but again, it's an expansive facility, right? Doesn't take much to be quite a ways away from us to see that a little bit of precipitation come. I said it was potentially around the noon hour, but it could be a little bit early here, but keying in here right now on Ruben Moya on that Pantano chassis, who was obviously one of the superstars at the Super Nationals last November for Forward Direction Motorsports. Here's the number 93 as well, keeping an eye on the drivers out there, putting lap times down here.
Colin Lloyd, his new colors with Velocity Racing Sodi.
That's tough. I'm not used to that yet.
Yeah. Well, he switched helmets, I believe, on you. He's gone to the pink and white.
That'll work for me, though. I can pick that out.
We do have confirmation here that drops are hitting the surface and the times are slowing. This could be a huge, huge help for everyone in this slow group right now if this track gets worse. Talk about dynamic conditions. Colin Lloyd, he's mastering it decently well, but Blake Nash is doing the best. The number 64, 54.82. Just enough to kind of slick that surface off, waiting to see if it's going to get worse or will we start to see some improvements in lap times. Keep a look at the puddles on the racetrack. We'll see if any droplets hit there. That's a big improvement on this lap by, so evidently they've gotten some heat in the tires, heated the surface back up on the racing group. They're okay now. Quentin McPherson to the top.
Yeah, Moya goes into second. Here comes Blake Nash back to the top as well. McPherson second, Moya third. You got Caden O'Connor now up into the 4th spot. Archer Eversman up into 5th. Check out the Forward Direction Motorsport drivers, Xander. How about 3rd, 4th, and 5th on the Pantanos?
And those are easy to pick out on the racetrack. The black and yellow colors will be a new force for us to get accustomed to, just like the GFC trio this year on the SKUSA Pro Tour. Ruben Moya shocked the world, maybe at least the North American continent, I should say, at the Supernats, going to the pole out of the slow group. He's been here before, specifically in this type of race weekend scenario, having to go first onto the racetrack with more fast drivers supposedly getting a better track than him afterwards. But that entire Denver, Colorado-based squad is set for the full 3-round championship, 6 main events, 3 race weekends. And it's great to see Greg Welch and that crew have a big, healthy tent here and being able to make a national run, Rob.
Yeah, look at these quick drivers up front here. Chase Hand right there behind Colin Lloyd goes P1 on the GFC. Hand on the number 27 does a 53.299 provisional pole here, just 0.02 of a second quicker than Nash. McPherson holding on to 3rd. You saw the drivers there from Forward Direction Motorsports all lined up as they worked their way down that back straightaway. There's the 79 and McPherson between the RPG Cosmic. He's up there into the 3rd spot. Colin Lloyd in between there as well. Remy Andreato's a good lap there to go 7th ahead of Eversman. Tortado now in the 9th spot. Boyadzis in 10th.
Checkers, yeah, there, checkered flag flying. Last time to make any big leaps forward. And Moya, Eversman, Hand, 53.11 will be the time to beat.
Moya on that last lap dropped the hammer to a 53.113 provisional time. As Xander had said, the remainder of the drivers have worked their way back to the scales. Blake Nash holds on for 4th, McPherson 5th, Colin Lloyd 6th, Marcelo Tortato 7th, Caden O'Connor 8th, Jose Martinez 9th, and Remy Andreato is able to hold on to a spot inside the top 10. But Moya, last lap, works his way back up top, puts a couple of Pantanos there, P1 and P2. Archer Eversman, a good lap as well. But that's a significant gap, Xander, between 1st and 2nd. It's a 10th and a half between Moya and Eversman. You know there's a gaggle of drivers rolling out on track right now that are ready to try to go to P1.
For sure, Rob. They all are going to be gunning for that. And, well, if the droplets continue, it'll be a little bit more difficult. If they don't, these guys and girls are going to a much cleaner surface and a much hotter surface to build temps, build pressures, and build a better lap at the beginning of their session. Again, we saw Chase Hand nearly end up off and into the weeds at the end of the back straightaway on his outlap in the slow group. We can see Austin Garrison here wheeling that thing, trying to get some heat into the front tires right now in the number 6. But he still looks pretty planted. I don't think that we're going to be losing the racetrack. We might have gotten away with one here to get through qualifying at least, Rob.
Yeah, I think you and I picked up the look of Chase Hand early in that run when he had the trouble down in turn 6. These guys are all looking pretty good right now. Let's have a good look at Norberg working his way through turns 2, 3, and then 4 and 5. This double right-hander that leads onto the back straightaway. They look pretty good coming through there. We'll get another good look coming through turn number 6 to see whether or not those cars are pointing right down where they want them to be. Yeah, a little slide there, a little back in for Norberg, getting the heat up in the tires. So yeah, to me, track looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too, Rob. I think we're going to see some burner lap times here because sometimes too, in a class like Pro X30 where you've got the heavier weight than the juniors, it's very easy to get overstuck, have too much grip. So when you get a little bit of rain like that, it'll slick the racetrack off just enough. Then you balance that out with the extra grip from new tires. Saw Danny Formal, most notably in Pro Shifter, seemed to have too much grip in his GFC, putting tires on. So it might have played to the benefit of some drivers that weren't quite anticipating the grip improvement enough by slickening the surface off with the slow group.
Norberg, another championship in 2024. Can he continue it on? Can he keep this record improving, enlarging, more champions, piling them onto the resume? There's the driver we talked to before there, the number 29, Jake Drew in the GFC.
Yeah, the number 29 trying to join Chase Hand at the top. Let's see this time around. Garrison and Norberg 7th and 8th as of their last laps. Everyone should get at least, I think, 2 more. The majority of the field at least should get 2 more. You can see Drew's going to have traffic. He's going to have to probably go by Timothy Pernod coming into the last turn this time by. Austin Garrison, he's still got clear racetrack, and he'll clearly go to the top for a split second. Norberg going to go better as 15 thousandths of a second separates them, and we get a live look here at the radar with all of that green, yellow, and orange nasty stuff off the coastline that quickly could sweep its way over towards us. But pop-up showers, it seems to be the name of the game around us right now.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of that green around the track area, just north of Houston here in New Caney. Austin Garrison went quick as Xander had said, he 52.756, pipped by 15 thousandths from Norberg. Good run there as well on that lap for Aiden and Grada. Another one of the Speed Concepts drivers now up into the 3rd spot. Moya back to 4th. Jake Drew up into 5th. So Moya still holding on to P4 right now, but still a couple more laps. This is lap 3 for Norberg, Garrison, and Grada. Put lap 4 in the books right now for Garrison. Does he go back to the top? Expecting him to? Maybe not. Wow.
He didn't improve at all, but Norberg did by a lot. That's a big gap now. Caden McQueen going to join the party up front. The energy will split up the group there. Send Jake Drew all the way down to 6. His teammate, Jesus Vasquez, and Diego Ramos now getting some good laps in. All 3 of those drivers are together. Here's the yellow helmet of Vasquez, Ramos, and McQueen. Nose to tail, but they're going to be right around the bubble, I would say, Rob, just guessing here, of whether or not they get lap number 5, knowing that only about half the groups have gotten, or half of each group has gotten 5.
See if they come around here and get to the point where they're going to get that 5th lap in. Norberg, Garrison, McQueen, Ramos, Vasquez, your top 5. Drew 6th, Grada 7th, Fisher 8th, Moya from the first group in 9th, and Paulie Massimino finds himself up into the top 10. Here's lap number 5 for everybody right here coming across the line. Norberg's going to go back to P1.
McQueen
probably stretch
close. Yeah, he stretched it out, but Caden closed the gap. Garrison did also. Is it going to hold all the way to the end? It looks like it will. That was the checkers. The moment that the ticker went blue was when timing went checkered flag off Aaron Likens' stopwatch's cue. And so that'll do it. We are done with qualifying, and Mr. 9-time is ready to make it a double-digit count on regular season titles. and picking up right where he left off. The month of March has been good to Flying Ryan.
Big final lap for Ty Fisher as well. We talked about Norberg and McQueen, Garrison, Ramos, Drew. We talked about those drivers being in that top 10, but Ty Fisher on the last lap puts the TV Kart number 37 up to 6th. So a great run there for Ty Fisher. He'll go, as I said, into that 6th spot. Vasquez ends up in 7th, Ingrata 8th. Enzo Nienkotter into 9th spot in his debut here in the senior category of the Pro Tour. Ruben Montoya holds on to the top 10.
A little bit of quick chatter there and debrief between Austin Garrison and Ryan Norberg, and the scale line is moving along quickly, as is the race day. If you've got the timetable pulled up, you know KA Juniors pre-finals up next. 10 laps on deck for it here, 3 minutes away. It's just enough time for us to step to the side. And again, this will be exclusive to KC Premium members through to the mains, through with heats 1 and 2 for Pro Shifter, but only to watch live. You'll get clips and, of course, all the social media coverage from us, from ekartingnews.com as well throughout the day. And you'll get to watch the replays next week. But if you'd like to keep watching along with us from SpeedSports Racing Park, home of the Allen Rudolph Racing Academy here in New Caney, Texas, Rob and myself will see you on the other side, exclusive to KC Premium members. And again, just 2 minutes away now from KA Juniors pre-final.